my channel. If you're new here, hi and welcome. I'm Joanne. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to be sharing my June bullet journal setup with you guys. This month's theme is so beautiful. I'm just so happy with how it turned out, so I'm really excited for this video. If you guys saw on my YouTube channel a couple weeks ago, I posted a poll asking you guys what you thought my June theme was going to be. I created 4 options. These were the results, and I'm so surprised that everyone said beach. That is not the theme I went with. I ended up choosing the wine and grapes theme. I'm really surprised that it was so overwhelming that everyone chose beach. I guess I don't like to go with the kind of sort of conventional option, and for me the wine and grapes theme really gives that kind of like summer country vineyard feel without being like overtly summer like the beach chairs, so I decided to go with that theme this month. Also, in this month's Plan With Me, I've done something a little bit different than normal. In my previous Plan With Me's, I've just showed you my whole setup, like the title page, the calendar, the habits, plus all the weekly spreads, and I've just done it all in one video. But in this month, I've added a couple extra pages, more artwork, and a couple extra spreads for things I have going on this month, and so it just got to be a lot of content. And so I've decided to split it up. In this video, I'm just going to be showing you kind of the front half of my bullet journal setup, excluding the weekly spreads. I've seen a lot of other creators on their channels that when they do their Plan With Me's, they do this. They just show kind of the front portion and they leave out the weekly spreads. Personally, this always kind of like irks me because I really love the weekly spreads. So I always want to see how they apply their artwork to those spreads. So I do want to share that with you guys. It was just getting to be too much. So in a couple weeks, I will post another video showing you the weekly spreads for my June setup. I hope this new format is okay for you guys. But please do let me know in the comments below how you feel about that. Like, what are your thoughts? Would you prefer to just see everything all at once, or do you not really care about the weekly spreads? Like, please let me know. It'd be really helpful for me to create more good content for you guys. Last month, I also included a little update on my herb garden. If you guys remember, I had just moved a couple herbs into the trough, and then I had a couple chili peppers that were starting to sprout from the like seedling pods. So a lot has happened this last month with my herb garden, so stay tuned for the end of this video and I'll give another update on my herb garden.
I'm starting off with the cover page. I don't normally start with the cover page. I often like to do this last, but for this month I had a sort of clear idea of what I wanted to do. So I'm going to draw this wine glass, and I'm going with this sort of like dotted line aesthetic. I think it just softens it a little bit. And for this month's theme, I also wanted to do a more like sketched out sort of scrapbooky looking aesthetic as opposed to like the doodles that I often do. And like last month's was more like not cartoony, but like a little bit more doodles. So I wanted to do more like elegant artwork for this month. I've never put a calendar on the front page. I think it's totally non-functional, but it's just for aesthetics. So I decided to try that out this month. And then I'm writing Hello June here. I'm using a calligraphy stroke for June to try to keep it really elegant and classic. And then I'm going to be going in and drawing a bunch of grapevines and leaves. I've laid them out in pencil already. And I did a quick Google before this of like, what does a grapevine leaf actually look like? I realized I had no idea. And it's a sort of like spiky leaf, like you're gonna see I'm drawing one here. And then I'm drawing some grapes here. I also Googled like a bunch of grapes. And I think when we were kids, we'd always just draw like a whole bunch of circles and they would come down to a very sharp like one grape point at the end. And I don't think that's totally realistic. So I just tried to make them like quite random. I'm also adding these little round leaves. I don't know if that's like botanically correct, but the grape leaves were very time consuming to draw, so I'm just filling in a little bit of space with these smaller leaves. And then I wanted to add a vine kind of like wrapping around the wine bottle just to add some interest and yeah, give it this sort of like scrapbook or like sketched out vibe that I was going for. And now I'm going to be adding some colors. So for the branches, what I'm doing is I'm using this sort of medium like chocolate brown, and I'm going in and roughly coloring them in, but it's not perfect. And then I'm going back in with this darker, like I guess espresso color brown, and just coloring in the gaps, and that gave it a perfect sort of gradient to not just look like two-dimensional, looks a little bit more three-dimensional. And then I'm going to do a similar trick with the leaves. So I'm using my light green zebra midliner and sort of roughly coloring them in. And then I'm going in with a slightly like darker medium green and just coloring in those white spaces that were left from my first pass. And this gives it a nice three-dimensional look. For the grapes, I'm coloring the whole bunch in with this light purple sort of lilac color, and then I'm going to be going in with a darker purple and sort of like dotting in some random places, not coloring it solidly, just dotting it in. And this was a really good quick way to give a little bit of dimension and again make it look less like a doodle and a little bit more like proper artwork. I added a sort of like wine color to one of the bunches of grapes and this like midnight blue color to the other. Then I'm going to color in the wine. I started with this color, but it was looking a little bit pinkish, so then I went back in with this like more wine red and just colored in half of it for a bit of dimension. And now on the quote page, I really wanted to do this quote, "Age like a fine wine." I just think it's really fun, and yeah, why not? I've done a mix of letterings here. I have the calligraphy stroke and the block letters, and I'm coloring some of them in. And this is the cover and quote page. What do you guys think? On the next page, I'm creating the calendar for the month. I have a lot going on in June, so I wanted to give myself some space here to write down all the important events and like to-do items that I have for the month. So I'm copying the same calligraphy stroke that I used for the cover page here. And then I wanted to keep the calendar quite a simple aesthetic, so I've put this like green bar here. June starts on a Thursday, so we have 3 days on the top row, and then the full week will start on the 4th. So just writing in the days of the week, I'm gonna choose this like simple block lettering here to kind of contrast with my more elaborate brush stroke. So I sort of messed up the spacing of the dots, but I think I've managed to fix it. I'm doing the dots in pink, and this is like sort of giving me watermelon vibes, which I don't love, but anyways. I've written in the numbers in those dots, so I wanted to keep the calendar really simple. And I'm adding a little bit of artwork on the bottom of this page using that same sort of like dotted line sketched out aesthetic. So we have a wine bottle and a glass of wine here, and I'm also going to draw another bunch of grapes. And I'm going to use the same techniques as I used on the cover page to draw those and color them in. And then, like I said, I have a lot of events going on in June, so I'm adding a little thing here for birthdays so I can keep on top of like gifts and cards and messages to send and stuff like that. And then over here, I wanted to do another spread because I'm attending 2 different weddings this month, one of which has actually 2 events, so it's 3 wedding events in total. And I've never done a spread like specifically for an event before, so I wanted to set that up for this month. I've always kind of done the basic like title page, calendar page, habit tracker, etc. So I wanted to add this spread that's like really customized to what I need to plan out for these events that I have going on this month. So I'm using that like wine red. I didn't really like the pink on the calendar page, so I'm using the more like reddish color here. And then just adding a few like branches and leaves around the title at the top just for like a little bit of interest. So the artwork will match the cover page artwork. Now that I've set up the header, I'm gonna create the sections that I want to make some notes for. So I'm using that same dotted line aesthetic and doing these sort of like rounded corner rectangles. So I have a big box here for outfits. I guess I need 3 different outfits, and then I have another smaller box for shoes as well. I'm creating a to-do list, although I'm sort of like a +1 in a couple of these, so I don't think I have too much to do. Adding a box for budget because I do feel like attending these weddings can like quickly get out of hand, so I want to make sure I keep on top of budgeting. And then I have a sort of like information box at the bottom. I think that will be useful for like addresses, phone numbers, like where to go, stuff like that. I'm super happy with how this spread turned out, and I'm really excited to be using it. Onto the habit tracker now. I'm keeping this one really simple because the mood tracker on the left page is a lot more elaborate. So I'm just writing out habit tracker in the same cursive font as I used for the title of the month. And I've added this sort of like long like dragged out stroke to the left of the H, and I'm going to do the same thing on the right, like just for fun. And here I'm going to be doing 9 habits. You can see I've sort of sketched them out in pencil already. And I was a bit lazy, to be honest, to like draw the grid for every single one. So I just did the outline of the calendar, and with the dots on the page, like hopefully that'll work out well. I can just color that in for each day with these habits. And then I'm going to be adding my goals section at the bottom. Like 9 habits is more than enough, I think. So this is just enough space for some goals. So I used the same font as for above. And then I'm going to add a little bit of color just by using green and brown, and then I'm going to try to fill in the habits with more like red and purple tones. So I'm just setting it up with green and brown, and then I think that will like balance out the page nicely once I fill in the habits. For the mood tracker this month, I wanted to make it sort of like an art page. I've seen a lot of these sort of mood trackers, and the one I did in the past couple months was like more simple, where it was just like almost like a grid that you just fill in. But I decided to make this one a little bit more elaborate just because I had the time and I wanted to do a little bit more artwork in this month's theme. So I decided to make it sort of like a shelf of like wine bottles, wine glasses with like grapes and branches and stuff hanging off the edge. So I started with that like hanging board thing, and I'm going to be using a lot of like wood and green tones. So yeah, I'm using the same like sketched out like dashed line aesthetic to draw all of these bottles. It took a lot of like creativity, I think, to think of 30 different things to draw. Unfortunately, June only has 30 days in the month, so I only had to think of 30. But yeah, so there was definitely some repeats. I drew like these they're going to be wooden shelves and then different like bottles and stuff on top of them. And then I have those glasses, as you can see, like hanging below, like they have in restaurants and stuff. So yeah, then I've drawn this like hanging board sign thing, and my kind of vision was like a rope tied around each side of the sign to hold it up. So yeah, I'm just drawing in various shelves here. I had it mapped out in pencil already. It took a long time, of course. There's just so many of them, but it was really enjoyable. I kind of miss like doing more artwork sometimes in my bullet journal. Like that's kind of like, it's a lot of like doodles and lines and stuff. So this was kind of fun to like do some proper artwork here. And then I'm going to be adding in similar aesthetic to the cover page, but like those vines and branches with the grapes and the leaves. Yeah, just adding a few of them in here and there, and I wanted it to really have sort of like country, vineyard, barn sort of aesthetic, so I'm super happy with how this page turned out. I'm going to be going in and coloring the leaves in the same green as before, but then I'm going to color the grapes green as well on this page. And then for the mood tracker like color code, I'm going to use all warm like red tones. So I think that once the mood tracker is actually filled in by the end of the month, then it will kind of balance out this green and brown well, similar to the habit tracker, which as you can see I actually did after I did the mood tracker. But yeah, I'm going to use these like warm tones for all the different emotions that I may be feeling in the month, and then color in these wine bottles as I go. The month of June starts on a Thursday, so the first week, I guess, of the month is just Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you can see I've actually already set that up on the right side, so I guess this is sort of a sneak peek to the next video, where I'm going to show you all the weekly spreads, but that meant I had this one page left before I needed to start the weekly spreads. So I decided to lay out some space for like 4 different kind of areas of my life that I may want to plan during the month. I left this one to the end because I didn't really have any like good ideas or inspo for how to lay out this page, and as you can see I ended up going super simple. This month I wanted to add a few extra spreads that I've seen in like a lot of other kind of Pinterest and other bullet journal setups online. I wanted to like get a bit more involved with my bullet journal rather than just having the planner and habit tracker, so I decided to add a couple pages at the end to track a few other things. So on this page I'm adding this like gratitude spread, and I saw it, can't remember where, I think of like a lot of journalers and creators have done similar spreads, but every day the idea is to write down one thing that I'm grateful for. So I'm using a similar aesthetic to the calendar page with these like pink dots, and then every day I can just write down one thing that I'm grateful for. And on the last page, I'm adding a notes page. I usually do have a notes page in my setup. I find this really helpful, especially towards the end of the month when I'm like planning for the next month's themes, or I just have like, if I haven't set up the next month's spread yet and I have like plans or events I need to make a note of, then I can just like dump everything in this notes page and it gets like super messy by the end of the month. But I do find it really helpful. So I'm using the same aesthetic as the wedding spread setup with this like red bar on the top and a few vines and artwork there, and then that same dotted rectangle around it. And now I'm just coloring in the leaves and the branches in the same way that I did all the other spreads. I'm really happy with the couple extra spreads I added this month, like the gratitude and the wedding planning. I would love to know your thoughts and ideas in the comments, like what are some other spreads I can be trying out, because I would love to get a little bit more involved and try out some more different types of spreads in my bullet journal. And here's the final flip through. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and I can't wait to share the next part of all the weekly spreads with you guys. These are my chilies. I'm growing them at my office because, as you can see, it gets really good sunlight on this windowsill and there's no other tall buildings. I've given them all names that have like alliteration with the type of chili. These chilies were all a seed 2 months ago, so I'm so proud of them. They're like my babies now. And then the other herbs are all on my balcony now. I've moved them outside. They were just getting a bit out of control and they get better sunlight outside. So this is a tiger lily. I've added a few plants since last time. I have some mint, some strawberries. That little parsley I grew from seed, so I'm pretty proud of that. And the dill was from seed too, so they're all pretty happy out here in their pots.
And that's it for this month's layout. I hope you loved watching this video as much as I loved creating all these spreads. I will be uploading the weekly spreads, kind of second part of this, shortly, so stay tuned for that. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Don't forget to hit that like button down below, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe as well, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, friends!